folks, Andy Polk with FDRA. It's another Kicks Over Coffee. Hope you're caffeinated with me. Got a cup of Joe. And we're in the middle of summer, and back to school is starting up very soon, if not already, for a lot of parts of the country, where parents and kids are starting to look at what kicks they're gonna buy as they head back, both to high school, middle school, elementary school, but also college. And so because of that, I'm happy to have on my friend Matt Powell, who's an expert in this space with the NPD Group. Matt's been tracking the athletic footwear market for many, many years, as well as the outdoor footwear marketplace. So Matt, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So first off, before we get to the back to school stuff and kind of look at what's hot and where we might think sales and retail will be at the end of that season, you guys have just been reporting on I think Q2 2019 and kind of looking at the numbers. So take us through what you guys are seeing in the sneaker, the athletic shoe marketplace. How are people doing? What are the trends? Just give us the lowdown on that.
Sure. Well, business is, I would say, just okay right now in the athletic space. We're being dominated by sport lifestyle. It's still the largest category now, and it's growing, but not growing as fast as it was a year ago. The performance categories continue to be very challenged. Running is down a little bit, but it's not showing any signs that it's going to turn to positive. Basketball is down a lot. And training has been down for a while. So we've really been now for almost 4 years. Well, since it's August, it's now 4 years of not having a single performance category trending positively. And that's a sea change for the industry. This is not something we've ever known. If we go back in the first 50 years of the modern sneaker era, we've always had at least one performance category that was in fashion, whether it was tennis in the early 70s and then jogging and then running and basketball and so forth. And so for the last 4 years, without having a single performance category trending positively, this is really uncharted waters for us. And one of the interesting things that it's done is that it's allowed a lot of smaller sort of non-athletic brands to come into the space. And so we're hearing people talk about brands like Madden and Cole Haan, as well as designer brands like Gucci that are coming in and actually registering with athletic style footwear. And that's something else we haven't seen. This industry's always been really a handful of brands, and now there are a lot more brands competing for the dollars. And amazingly, most of the small brands are growing much faster than the market today.
That's crazy. But I also know there are some brands that are doing pretty, like Hoka is coming on and they're seeing some growth. And so there's some aspects that are doing quite well, but overall you're saying it's just been kind of stagnant. There doesn't seem, is this because of innovation that's just not there? Or is this because our culture has become more of a Netflix culture? So maybe you and I can create a Netflix sneaker that would do really well in the marketplace right now.
Exactly. Well, I think this is really the end game of athleisure. We're wearing athletically inspired apparel and footwear without any intention of actually using it for sport. And if we're not going to use it for sport, we don't need a $150 running shoe for casual. We can get away with a $75 shoe. And so what we're selling are a lot of cute, lightweight shoes. And in fact, if you could do performance in these shoes, you're not going to win a marathon wearing these shoes, but you certainly could take a casual run. And I think that's another aspect of this, is that over the last 10 years, we have had such a surge in innovation and improvement of product that the moderate shoe today is better than the best shoe was 10 years ago. And so, again, the need of the consumer to have to spend the top dollar for a performance shoe just isn't there.
What about the outdoor kind of marketplace for footwear and just in general? I mean, you track that as well, and I think Q2 is typically where people start heading outdoors more, and obviously through the rest of the summer. And so what are you seeing in that marketplace? Is that
again, the sales are relatively stagnant. We had a cold and wet spring and cold and wet early summer, and people just didn't want to get out. So the outdoor equipment business hasn't been great. The outdoor footwear business hasn't been great. We had a tremendous year last year in the early fall with cold weather fashion boots, brands like Sorel. we're just on fire, UGG, and so forth. And if we get weather again, I think that business could be really strong. So I'm a little bit more optimistic about the fortunes there, assuming we get the weather. But right now, the outdoor business has not been great. And I think, again, we have a situation where most of the casual hiking brands or the light hiking brands have not really introduced much new product. It's 2.0, 3.0, et cetera, and as opposed to really having something fresh. And I think the consumer wants fresh today.
Right. So let's move towards forecasting. Back to school season's coming back. Even before we get to that, I saw something because I follow you on social media, on LinkedIn, and I see other thoughtful things that you post. And you're forecasting something like in the next 5 or 10 years, 50% of athletic shoes will be sold online.
Yes.
If we look at this last quarter and we look at where we're at today, how many, what percent right now are we in terms of athletic shoes being sold online? And then why are you forecasting that almost half of it will be online in a couple of years?
It's a great question. We're about 29% of all athletic shoes are sold online today, and that number continues to grow every year. The biggest driver here, Andy, is going to be brand direct-to-consumer. Every brand out there is pushing really hard on their direct-to-consumer business, and if we follow the conference calls for the brands, they all talk about how they're getting robust growth there, and that's going to continue, and that will drive much of this business. The other part is we continue to have rationalization in the shoe business. Retailers are closing. A lot of mom and pops are closing. We don't count those any longer, but that's happening. And every store that closes, a chunk of that business goes to the internet, and so we can expect that we will see a significant portion of the athletic shoe business online. But that said, we always will have physical stores.
Right.
We're not going to go away from that. Consumers tell us they like to go into stores, they like to try product on, they like to touch it, they want to talk to their community.
Right.
And so there will always be physical stores, but we have far too many stores today selling too much of the same stuff, and that will cause further rationalization and more business to the internet.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. My dad will go to Walmart, not to buy anything, but to run into people and talk to them.
Yeah,
right?
yep, just hang out, right?
So it's like the new Main Street is still retailing. It's still going to be malls in some way. They'll morph and change, but the malls will still exist in some fashion.
Correct.
But I think what's interesting is merging what you said earlier with what you just said. And you were saying that consumers want different product. And it seems like if you're going direct to consumer, folks like Nike and Adidas can do more exclusives direct to consumer, and they can find that product they can't find anywhere else, right? So it's kind of helping drive. I mean, part of it is, I guess, a lot of us are socialized to buying online. Not everybody is, but if you keep putting on product that's unique and you could only get it online, it socializes people to buy online, maybe.
Correct. And look, shoe stores, one of the Achilles heels of the shoe business is that we're always out of sizes. No retailer has every size.
Right.
No retailer can stock every color. Well, the internet has every available size on a shoe, and they stock every color on a shoe. So if you see a blue one in a store and you want a green one, well, the internet has the green one. And one of the things we talk a lot about at NPD is the need for retailers to really merge and blend the internet with the physical, and be able to order products online in the physical store, be able to buy online, pick up in store, and so forth, and just find a way that we're not thinking about separate channels, but really just one big shopping channel.
We've been talking about that for a long time, and people still aren't there.
Nope.
I find it very interesting. Very interesting. All right, so back to school. Kids and parents are going to head off pretty soon to their local shops, or just pull up their smartphones and start ordering shoes. What type of shoes, what type of brands are going to be hot? Are sales going to be up this year? Tell us what you think.
Well, over the 20 years that I've been tracking the industry, back to school has become less important every year. Okay. It doesn't peak up as much as it used to. It lasts a lot longer than it used to. I firmly believe kids wait till they go back to school to see what the other kids are wearing before they want to shop. And so it's changed the face of it. But August is the biggest month of back to school. This month we're in now. As you know, some of the southern schools are very close, or already back to school. The northern schools will come back a little later. But I don't think it's going to be a robust season. We really are coming into the season without anything like a hot item. If we go back in 2016, it was Adidas Superstar. In 2017 and 18, it was Nike Tangent. The top selling shoe today is Nike Air Max 270. But because of its price point, the pairs that are being sold are really relatively small.
Right.
And I would not call, and this is not an industry-wide or broadly distributed product. So I'm rather pessimistic about back to school. I think we'll get an increase, but I don't think it's going to be a rip-roaring back to school at all. Athleisure will continue to drive the market. Smaller brands will continue to drive the market. We saw Puma's results yesterday, very robust growth. We saw Crocs this morning with up 14%. Smaller brands are growing much faster than larger brands, or the market is in total. So it's going to be an interesting season. I think retailers have really got to figure out a way to create a distinctive assortment in their stores, unique products presented in unique ways. To go and because we don't have this blockbuster item that we can count on that's going to drive a lot of business. I think it's going to force us to find smaller incremental ways of growing the business.
That's interesting. We keep hearing throughout the summer or throughout the spring and then the summer, Vans is still very hot. Textile uppers, kind of the Converse, those are continuing to drive, and that's great. But and to your point, they're not exactly the highest price points, right? You can get for $60, $70. So that's great, but it doesn't mean that margins necessarily increase sometimes on those shoes either.
Right. We're buying pairs. And you know what? There's one other interesting thing, and I think this affected the business this spring, is the Payless bankruptcy. And there was $1 billion worth of inventory there. That's an amazing amount of product. And I think a lot of people who maybe didn't shop at Payless went in because they were offering great deals. And look, if you bought a pair of shoes in May, maybe you don't need a pair of shoes in August, even if it wasn't the brand or the quality that you're used to buying. So there will be a lingering impact, I think, from this Payless bankruptcy.
Very interesting. Before I let you go, I just want to get your thoughts on, for a couple of years now, we've been having all these debates in the industry about influencers and how actually influential they actually are on pushing product. We've seen the Beyonce episode recently, and kind of the sneaker wars with her bouncing around between different brands before she landed with Adidas. We've got Rihanna with Puma, I think it is. Do these folks influence sales? And then, what sort of innovations, as and secondary to that is, you travel around a lot and you meet with brands and you talk to them. What are some new innovative things that they're thinking about or talking about in terms of actual products? So not influencers, but the actual product.
Yeah, I think the influencer thing is starting to play itself out a little bit. I think the consumer today knows that most of these celebrities are paid to wear a particular brand, and if somebody pays them more, they're going to go wear somebody else. They're not necessarily. If you go back in the early days of influencers, the celebrity talked about, this was the first brand my mom bought for me, or this was the first shoe I played ball in. And there was a real emotional, authentic connection between the celebrity and the product. Today, it's just who's writing the check. So I think there's an authenticity there. Beyonce may be somewhat different here. I think she has a much broader reach. I think she's going to take a much more active role not in the product design, because she's not a designer, but certainly in the product aesthetic. I think there's a potential for her to have a real impact and positive impact for Adidas. But in many cases, I think the celebrity influencer thing is starting to play itself out. On the innovation side, we're really not seeing anything leaps and bounds innovative in footwear in terms of the product itself. The innovation's coming in manufacturing and logistics, in retail, in behind the scenes kinds of things, and not necessarily the product. There really has not been a major new innovative product out there since Boost that has really been a commercial kind of an innovation. So I'm not expecting much there. And again, I think the emphasis of the consumer is away from pinnacle product and away from technical product to more athleisure product. So I'm not expecting much there in leaps and bounds. But behind the scenes, getting to the product more quickly to the consumer, making products more sustainably, making products nearer shore, I think all those things are where the efforts in innovation are coming.
And you guys recently did a study, and we had Beth Goldstein come on our panel a week or so ago about sustainability and consumers. And what you guys found in particular was, the certain age range, 18 to 34, which of course will only, as they get older, it'll only extend out, said that they are thinking more about sustainability. They're willing to pay a little bit more for sustainability. And I think there's a wave that's coming with that, where for a while now, the industry's talked about sustainability, but some people have put it off to the point where maybe we're at a tipping point where you can no longer put off working on sustainability or thinking about sustainable products.
Correct. And I think the other side of this coin is that brands have been reluctant to talk about their efforts in sustainability because they know they're so far from perfect.
Right.
And I'm saying to brands, you're never going to be perfect.
Right.
Never going to be carbon zero. Okay. So you need to say, we're working really hard, and here's the improvements we've made, and here's what we're going to do in the future. We know it's not enough. We need to do more. But be proud of the efforts that they're making. One of the interesting things we found in our future of apparel study on sustainability was consumers, as they said in footwear, were interested in buying more sustainable products. But they often said they didn't know when they were buying sustainable products. And so the industry's got to do a better job of saying, this is what we've done. Here's what's sustainable about this product. Some of the things are obvious, like Adidas Parley and the plastic ocean waste story. Other ones may be a little bit more complicated to tell that story. But I think the consumer wants to know what we've done.
I 100% agree. We just had a call with a large company yesterday about how we can, as an FDRA, can bring people together to create definitions so people understand eco-friendly, what's sustainability, what are these things. So almost like a tiered system where we can show progress and product, right? And I made, in specific reference was ideologues about sustainability will never think it's sustainable enough, but the idea is progress.
Correct.
Are we making progress? Are we creating more durable product? Are we doing better about tracking our emissions, things like that, and at least making steps forward? So we may not put a tag on it like this shoe is 80% sustainable, which in another way, you don't really want to do that, because if you can't back that up, then you could actually get sued. There are legal requirements on like eco marketing that you have to be careful of. But you can say it's verified or certified by these certain groups that work on materials or go in factories. And so I think, as long as you're talking about that and how you're trying, to your point, consumers will sort it out eventually. They'll socialize to what it is, and they'll start knowing the nomenclature and language. But if you're not using it, it's like you're just sitting in idle at this point.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Great. So before we wrap up, one last thing. If you travel all over the place, are you a coffee fan? And then what kind of coffee do you drink?
Well, I use a little shop here in Portland, Maine called Tandem Coffee.
Okay.
Ethically grown, ethically prepared, small batch. So that's typically what I look out for. And I pretty much only drink espresso.
Okay, only espresso. You take any milk in it, just straight black, a little sugar?
Black, quick shot, bam on it, and let's get going. Let's get back to it.
There you go. You're sweet enough. You don't need the extra sugar, right?
Exactly right. Exactly.
Matt, thanks so much for joining me today on this Kicks Over Coffee. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your insights. And I hope to see you soon at another event.
Great. Look forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Matt. All right, till next time, this is Kicks Over Coffee. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel for all our great insights and our fun, casual conversations over coffee about the footwear business. Thank you.